Serial killer Lonnie Franklin Jr., dubbed the Grim Sleeper, murdered women across Los Angeles for decades while police struggled to identify him. His capture came through a groundbreaking and controversial technique that revolutionized criminal investigation. Detectives uploaded DNA from crime scenes to public genealogy databases, discovering a partial match with a man imprisoned for a weapon charge. This man had to be the killer's son, providing investigators with the family tree they needed to identify Franklin. The technique worked because Franklin's son had submitted DNA to trace his ancestry, unknowingly betraying his father's crimes. When police arrested Franklin in 2010, he had been killing for over 25 years, preying on marginalized women whose disappearances received little attention. His son's innocent search for family history became the thread that unraveled his father's deadly legacy. This case established familial DNA searching as a powerful law enforcement tool, proving that criminals can be caught not just by their own evidence, but by their relatives' digital footprints. For over 40 years, the Hessdalen Valley in Norway has been haunted by unexplained aerial phenomena that defy conventional physics and human understanding. These mysterious lights appear as glowing orbs that hover motionless for hours, then suddenly accelerate to impossible speeds, or split into multiple objects. The lights display intelligence, seeming to respond to observers and changing behavior when studied. They appear in various colors: white, yellow, red, and blue, and can be as large as cars or as small as basketballs. Scientists have established a permanent automated observatory to study the phenomenon, recording thousands of sightings with sophisticated equipment. The lights sometimes appear solid to radar, while remaining invisible to the naked eye, or vice versa. Temperature readings show no heat signature despite their brilliant luminosity. Local residents have grown accustomed to their ethereal neighbors, but scientists remain baffled. The Hessdalen lights represent one of the most thoroughly documented unexplained phenomena on Earth, a persistent mystery that continues to challenge our understanding of physics and reality itself. On August 15, 1977, Ohio State University's Big Ear radio telescope received a signal so extraordinary that astronomer Jerry Eman wrote, "Wow," next to its printed code, giving the transmission its permanent name. The narrowband signal lasted exactly 72 seconds and originated from the direction of the Sagittarius constellation, displaying characteristics that made it unlike any known natural phenomenon. The signal's frequency matched the theoretical wavelength that scientists predicted intelligent aliens might use for interstellar communication. Its intensity was over 30 times stronger than background radio noise, yet it never repeated despite decades of monitoring the same region of space. The signal appeared to come from empty space, with no nearby stars or galaxies that could explain its origin. Multiple attempts to relocate and redetect the signal have failed completely. The WOW signal remains the strongest candidate for extraterrestrial communication ever recorded, a cosmic message that arrived once and then vanished into eternal silence, leaving humanity wondering what intelligence briefly called across the void. Oliver Cromwell's death in 1658 didn't end his legal troubles, it began them. 3 years after dying of natural causes, Cromwell was exhumed from Westminster Abbey on the anniversary of King Charles I's execution. His decomposing corpse was dressed, placed in a coffin, and transported to Tyburn Gallows for a posthumous trial and execution. The dead Lord Protector was found guilty of regicide and high treason, then hanged by the neck until dead, despite already being deceased for years. After this macabre ceremony, executioners decapitated the corpse and displayed Cromwell's head on a spike outside Westminster Hall. The head remained there for over 20 years, weathering storms and serving as a warning to future rebels. This gruesome spectacle satisfied the restored monarchy's need for revenge while demonstrating that death provided no escape from royal justice. Cromwell's posthumous punishment became one of history's most extreme examples of political vengeance, proving that some hatreds transcend the grave itself. Glaucus atlanticus, known as the blue dragon, practices one of the ocean's most ruthless forms of chemical warfare. This stunning sea slug deliberately hunts the Portuguese man-o-war, one of the sea's most venomous creatures. Rather than being deterred by its prey's deadly stings, The blue dragon feeds on the man-o'-war's tentacles, somehow avoiding death while storing the venom in specialized sacs. The dragon then concentrates this stolen poison, making itself more venomous than its original prey. This beautiful creature, no larger than a human thumb, floats upside down on the ocean's surface like a tiny dragon, its blue and silver coloration providing perfect camouflage. Unsuspecting swimmers who encounter blue dragons face stings more painful and dangerous than the man-o'-war itself. The creature essentially weaponizes its food, turning every meal into ammunition for future attacks. This represents evolution's dark creativity, creating predators that become more dangerous by consuming danger itself, beautiful death floating on ocean currents. The parasitic flatworm Leucochloridium paradoxum performs one of nature's most horrific mind control operations, turning snails into living zombies. The parasite infects the snail's eye stalks, transforming them into pulsating, colorful tubes that mimic caterpillars. But physical transformation is only the beginning. The worm then hijacks the snail's brain, forcing it to climb to exposed positions where birds can easily spot it. The snail, normally a creature that avoids light and seeks shelter, becomes compulsively drawn to bright open spaces. When birds eat the infected snail, attracted by the fake caterpillars, they become the parasite's new host, completing its life cycle. The snail essentially becomes a remote-controlled vehicle driven to its own death. Most disturbing is that the snail remains conscious throughout this process, aware but powerless to resist the parasite's commands. This represents biological slavery at its most complete. One organism completely overriding another's survival instincts and using its body as a disposable delivery system. At Vindolanda, a Roman fort on Hadrian's Wall, archaeologists uncovered thin wooden tablets preserving the last thoughts of soldiers stationed at the empire's edge. These 2,000-year-old messages reveal men facing death far from home, writing what amounts to ancient postcards from hell. One tablet contains a soldier's desperate plea for warm clothing. "Send me some woolen socks, 2 pairs of sandals, and 2 pairs of underpants." Another records a birthday party invitation that the recipient likely never survived to attend. The tablets capture the mundane reality of imperial service, men dying of cold, disease, and barbarian raids while worrying about laundry and social obligations. Many writers were barely literate, their crude Latin spelling revealing common soldiers' backgrounds. These messages represent final communications from people who knew they might. In Egypt's royal cache at Deir el-Bahari, archaeologists discovered a mummy unlike all others, wrapped in ritually unclean sheepskin instead of linen, his body contorted in apparent agony, mouth stretched wide in an eternal scream. Unknown man. As he was designated, likely died in extreme terror or pain, his facial muscles locked in death's embrace. The mummy's positioning outside the main burial chamber suggested he was a royal outcast, possibly Prince Pentawere, who conspired to murder his father, Pharaoh Ramesses III. Ancient Egyptian punishment for patricide was often being buried alive or forced to drink poison, both of which could explain the mummy's tortured expression. The sheepskin wrapping denied improper passage to the afterlife, condemning his soul to eternal suffering. X-rays reveal no obvious cause of death, deepening the mystery of his final moments. This prince, if that's who he is, chose political ambition over family loyalty and paid with both his life and his chance at immortal peace. Pine Barrens resident mother Leeds cursed her own unborn child in 1735, shouting, "Let it be the devil." Upon discovering her 13th pregnancy, the baby was born seemingly normal, but within hours transformed into a winged nightmare with hooves, a horse's head, and a forked tail. The creature immediately flew up the chimney and into the New Jersey wilderness, where it has terrorized residents for nearly 300 years. Witnesses describe a flying beast that kills livestock, screams from the forest at night, and leaves cloven hoofprints in snow. The devil has allegedly been spotted by thousands of people, including police officers and government officials. Its appearances often coincide with disasters, wars, economic crashes, and natural catastrophes. The creature seems immortal, neither aging nor breeding, a solitary monster born from a mother's despair. New Jersey residents still report sightings, particularly during times of crisis, suggesting the Jersey Devil feeds on human fear and suffering, growing stronger with each generation's terror. Orkney folklore describes the Nuckelavee as the most terrifying demon in Celtic mythology, a skinless humanoid torso fused to the back of a skinless horse, both bodies red with exposed muscle and black blood visible in their veins. This creature has no skin covering its anatomy, making it a living anatomy lesson from hell. Its breath alone can wilt crops, spread disease among livestock, and bring plague to human settlements. The demon emerges from the sea during storms to hunt humans, galloping across land with supernatural speed. Its horse half has a single burning eye and flippers instead of hooves, while the human torso has arms that drag along the ground. The Nuckelavee cannot cross fresh water, making streams and rivers the only escape from its pursuit. Orkney Islanders lived in genuine terror of this monster, believing it responsible for droughts, epidemics, and crop failures. The creature represents pure malevolence without any redeeming qualities, existing solely to spread suffering and death. October 17, 1814, transformed London's Tottenham Court Road into a river of death when a massive beer vat exploded at the Horseshoe Brewery. The rupturing tank released 135,000 gallons of porter beer in a devastating wave that reached 15 feet high. The alcoholic tsunami demolished 2 houses completely and punched through the wall of the Tavistock Arms pub, where patrons were buried under tons of beer and debris. 8 people drowned in the sticky, dark liquid, their bodies found days later when the beer finally drained away. The disaster was caused by metal fatigue in the tank's iron hoops, which snapped without warning. Rescue efforts were hampered by the beer's thickness and the overwhelming smell of alcohol that made breathing difficult. Local residents initially celebrated the free beer flowing through their streets, unaware that people were dying in the same liquid they were collecting in buckets. The brewery was eventually found not liable, as the explosion was deemed an act of God, leaving victims' families without compensation. December 6, 1917 brought the largest man-made explosion in history to Halifax, Nova Scotia, when 2 ships collided in the harbor. The French vessel Mont Blanc, loaded with wartime explosives, caught fire and became a floating bomb. For 20 minutes it drifted toward shore, while residents gathered to watch the unusual sight, unaware they were witnessing their own doom. The explosion vaporized the ship and created a mushroom cloud visible from 100 miles away. The blast wave flattened 2.5 square kilometers of the city, killing nearly 2,000 people instantly and injuring 9,000 more. Thousands were blinded by the flash, their retinas burned while they watched from windows. A tsunami followed the explosion, washing away survivors who had escaped the initial blast. The disaster previewed what atomic weapons would do to cities decades later, complete with radiation-like burns and complete urban destruction. Halifax became history's first glimpse of the apocalyptic power humanity would later weaponize. On December 2, 1959, France's Malpasset Dam exploded like a bomb, releasing 50 million cubic meters of water in minutes. The resulting tsunami reached 130 feet high and raced down the Rairin Valley at 43 miles per hour, a liquid mountain that pulverized everything in its path. The wave was so powerful it carried a 20-ton concrete block over a mile from the dam site. Entire villages were obliterated in seconds as the water scoured the valley floor down to bedrock. Residents had no warning. The dam failed without any preceding signs of distress. Bodies were found miles downstream, some so badly mangled by debris that identification required dental records. The disaster killed 423 people and left thousands homeless. Investigation revealed that engineers had ignored dangerous geological conditions, building the dam on a rock formation prone to failure. The Malpasset disaster became a cautionary tale about the hubris of engineering, where human confidence in concrete and steel proved no match for nature's raw power. The Poltergeist film trilogy became synonymous with death after an unusually high number of cast members died shortly after filming. Dominique Dunne, who played the eldest daughter, was murdered by her abusive ex-boyfriend just months after the first film's release. Heather O'Rourke, the angelic little girl who spoke to dead people through television static, died at 12 from a misdiagnosed bowel obstruction. Julian Beck and Will Sampson, who played supernatural antagonists, both died from illness within years of filming. The curse gained credibility when it was revealed that real human skeletons were used as props in the pool scene to save money on expensive fake ones. Cast and crew reported bizarre incidents during filming, unexplained cold spots, equipment malfunctions, and an atmosphere of dread that seemed to follow the production. Whether supernatural vengeance or tragic coincidence, the deaths cast a permanent shadow over films about disturbed spirits, suggesting that sometimes fiction and reality intersect in deadly ways. Walt Disney's last earthly communication was a single name scrawled on paper beside his deathbed: Kurt Russell. The teenage actor was under contract with Disney Studios but had no special relationship with the mogul. Russell himself has no explanation for why Disney would think of him in his final moments. The timing makes it even more mysterious. Disney wrote the name while battling lung cancer, suggesting it held significance beyond casual business. Some theorize Disney was planning Russell's future roles, while others wonder if the name represented something deeper. Russell went on to become one of Disney's most successful adult stars, appearing in numerous films for the studio. The deathbed note has become one of Hollywood's greatest unsolved mysteries. Did Disney foresee Russell's potential, or was the name connected to something more personal? The answer died with Disney, leaving Russell forever linked to one of entertainment's most enigmatic final messages. A pattern of misfortune has haunted actors who portrayed the Man of Steel, creating Hollywood's most disturbing alleged curse. George Reeves, TV's first Superman, died from a gunshot wound under mysterious circumstances in 1959. Christopher Reeve became paralyzed in a riding accident, spending his final years unable to move. Lee Quigley, who played baby Superman, died at 14 from solvent abuse. The curse seemingly extends beyond lead actors. Margot Kidder, who played Lois Lane, suffered a highly publicized mental breakdown. Even crew members weren't spared, with several dying during production of various Superman projects. The curse gained such notoriety that some actors reportedly turned down the role specifically due to superstition. Whether coincidence or cosmic justice, the pattern suggests that portraying an invulnerable character comes with very real vulnerability. The irony is chilling. Allied bomber crews in World War II faced an enemy they couldn't understand or fight: mysterious glowing orbs that pursued their aircraft through European skies. These Foo Fighters appeared as bright, fast-moving lights that could pace bombers for hours, sometimes flying in formation or performing impossible aerial maneuvers. Pilots initially feared they were secret German weapons designed to detonate near aircraft. The psychological impact was severe. Crews already stressed by combat now faced an unknown threat that seemed to toy with them. Both Allied and Axis pilots reported identical phenomena, ruling out human technology from either side. Some orbs appeared to respond to aircraft movements, suggesting intelligence behind their behavior. Crews developed superstitions about the lights, with some believing they were omens of death. The mystery deepened the war's psychological toll, as airmen faced not just human enemies, but inexplicable forces that violated all known laws of physics and warfare. The 23rd Headquarters Special Troops created one of warfare's most elaborate deceptions, using 1,100 soldiers who were artists, designers, and sound engineers before the war. They carried inflatable tanks, fake radio equipment, and massive speaker arrays that could simulate the sounds of entire armored divisions from miles away. Their job was to appear as 30,000 soldiers in locations where they wanted to draw German fire away from real Allied forces. The deception was so convincing that German artillery would shell empty fields for hours, wasting ammunition on rubber tanks and sound effects. The unit saved thousands of Allied lives by drawing enemy attention to fake targets. Members faced constant danger. They had to maintain their illusions even under direct attack, continuing to broadcast fake radio signals while bombs fell around them. Their success came at a price. Several Ghost Army soldiers died maintaining deceptions that kept their comrades alive elsewhere on the battlefield. During World War II, psychologist B.F. Skinner developed a weapon system using pigeons as living guidance computers for bombs. The birds were trained to peck at enemy targets displayed on screens inside missile nose cones. Their pecking would adjust the bomb's trajectory, essentially turning the pigeons into organic smart bomb technology. The training was remarkably successful. Pigeons could accurately identify and track targets even under combat stress. 3 birds per missile provided redundancy, with majority vote determining guidance. The project reached advanced testing phases, with pigeons successfully guiding practice bombs to their targets. However, military officials couldn't overcome the psychological barrier of trusting critical missions to birds. The program was canceled not due to technical failure, but because commanders found it too absurd to deploy. These pigeons, trained to be instruments of death, never fulfilled their deadly purpose, becoming perhaps the only kamikaze pilots to retire peacefully. A mysterious neurological disorder first documented in 19th century French-Canadian lumberjacks created human puppets who couldn't control their responses to sudden stimuli. When startled, sufferers would compulsively obey any command, no matter how dangerous. They would jump from heights if told to jump, strike people if ordered to hit, or repeat any words spoken to them. The condition was so extreme that cruel co-workers would deliberately startle victims to force them into embarrassing or harmful actions. Some sufferers developed such severe responses that a simple boo could trigger violent convulsions or send them running into walls. The disorder appeared to be hereditary, affecting multiple generations of certain families. Medical experts still debate whether it's a genetic condition, a form of hysteria, or a culturally conditioned response. These men lived in constant fear of being startled, knowing they could be transformed instantly into unwilling marionettes dancing to others' commands. Cotard's delusion transforms living people into walking nightmares who believe they're already dead. Sufferers become convinced their organs have rotted away, their blood is drained, or they've become putrefying corpses. Some stop eating entirely, reasoning that dead people don't need food, leading to dangerous malnutrition. Others refuse to speak, believing corpses can't talk or won't move, thinking their bodies are too decomposed to function. The delusion can be so complete that patients request to be buried or cremated. One patient stood motionless for days, convinced she had died and was in purgatory. The syndrome often accompanies severe depression or schizophrenia, but its exact cause remains unknown. Treatment involves antipsychotics and antidepressants, though some patients resist medication, insisting dead people can't be cured. This rare condition represents one of psychiatry's most disturbing manifestations, where the mind's perception of death overwrites all evidence of life. Henry Molaison underwent experimental brain surgery in 1953 to cure severe epilepsy. Surgeons removed portions of his hippocampus, successfully stopping his seizures but destroying his ability to form new memories. For 55 years until his death, Henry lived in perpetual 1953, believing himself to be a young man just after surgery. He couldn't remember conversations from minutes before, couldn't recognize doctors he'd seen daily for decades, and read the same magazines repeatedly with fresh interest. His tragic condition revolutionized neuroscience, proving that memory formation occurs in specific brain regions. Henry participated in thousands of experiments, unknowingly becoming the most studied person in medical history. He lived each day as his first day post-surgery, trapped in an endless loop of confusion and temporary relationships. His sacrifice advanced our understanding of memory, but at the cost of never truly living again. Stephen J. Tuttle walked free from a murder charge in 1981 using one of the most bizarre legal defenses in American history. He claimed involuntary intoxication after unknowingly drinking a Coca-Cola laced with PCP that had been stored in his refrigerator. The powerful hallucinogen triggered a psychotic episode during which he killed his friend, believing he was defending himself from monsters. Medical experts testified that PCP can cause complete detachment from reality, making users capable of extraordinary violence while having no conscious control. The human popsicle nickname came from Tuttle's description of feeling frozen and mechanical during the incident. This case established a precedent that involuntary drug intoxication could negate criminal intent. It remains controversial because it essentially allowed someone to escape murder charges by claiming they were too drugged to be responsible for their actions, raising disturbing questions about personal accountability.